Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. I am here, rather smug with a green arrow. It was a very small green arrow, but there aren't many of them around this week, are there? Are there, Abdul?
No, there's not. Big red one for me, John.
Yeah,
Cheers for reminding me.
it's funny, rubbing in FPL arrows and ranks and stuff's all great crack until you realise someone's making a living out of it. But
Exactly.
look, shout out to Rapka Wood FPS. A lot of letters. Hello. You were first in the comments, and Jeff good afternoon as well. Lots of letters in the comments. We'll put it that way, guys. Thanks for being here. We're gonna get stuck in. We're gonna have a look at my team. We're gonna have a look at Abdul's team. We'll do them in that order because people probably care more about yours. So we'll save the best at last, and then we're gonna have a look at your watch list. Abdul going into next week, and then we're gonna have a look at maybe transfers we're debating making. So I'll jump over here. I'll pull up the website. I should have had this ready. There we go. My week was pretty good. Saved, I suppose you could say. Completely saved by Castagna at Leicester with his 12-pointer. Very disappointing, I think, across the team. Happy I didn't try and be rogue as usual and just captained Haaland. 26 points. Don't think it affected rank too much, but saved me from a massive, massive red arrow. Castagna was just really clutch. It came in clutch. It would have been a red, but he gave me a small green. Just blanks everywhere. I think it was cruel the fact that everyone brought Foden in and he only managed how many minutes in the end? 28 minutes. No clean sheet for City as well. Was a little bit grim. Newcastle lads looked like they were doing all right, and then no clean sheet there. Zaha, very, very frustrating to watch. Martinelli didn't do anything. Salah blanking. Tony blanking. Mitrovic got a goal, but I think for me, everyone blanked apart from Mitrovic and Haaland, who everyone has, and Castagna kind of was the differential that gave me the green arrow. But not a great week. Not a great week for me. We'll have a look at your team, Abdul. You got 45 points, so it probably feels a bit dickheaded of me to be saying I had a bad week.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd take your game week all day long. I got 45 points. This was my second worst game week of the season. I had a 7.9 million game week rank. So went from around 130k to about 260k. So basically half, doubled my rank. And the only kind of meaningful returns for me was Mitrovic, who's actually only owned by around about 49%, which is high, but that he was my lowest kind of ownership player who returned. Haaland's returns, were just pretty much minimal because he was 180% EO effective ownership. So really poor game week. I played Raya instead of Ward. That lost me 6 points. I played Andreas ahead of Solanke, who got injured. Came off with a 1-pointer. And that lost me 9 points. So it was a bad game week. So one to put behind me. But going forward, John, I'm pretty happy with the team. I think for next week, it's looking pretty strong.
I think it is one of those where, a lot of these guys are just great picks, and that's the way it is. They still are great picks.
Yeah.
With very similar teams, apart from the goalkeeper, I have Pope. I didn't play Guehi. He was on my bench at Castagna, who played. But, Cancelo, Trippier, Foden, Zaha, Salah, Martinelli, all the same for us. I have Tony, you have Solanke. But, that midfield, just very disappointing, wasn't it? I feel like Salah, is he still an option? I don't. I'll ask you that. Salah, is he still a viable option?
The thing was, I think Salah on his own is fine. I think it's more to do with Liverpool. They're not creating enough chances. They've had a lot of injuries from the start of the season, so they've not got that kind of creative force, to create the chances for Salah. So I'm not worried about Salah on his own, but obviously he plays in the Liverpool team. So it is a worry that they're not clicking into gear. Their injuries are affecting them a lot. Thiago got injured. Quite late on. He was supposed to play that game. That would against Forest, and then I think it was Fabinho. I can't remember who came in, but he's obviously a big miss for them. So they've been unlucky in that sense. But I just think with Salah, or any Liverpool assets for that matter, are a kind of a don't buy, don't sell. I think if you've got them now, you think you need to keep them because you've got Leeds and Southampton in the next three. Is it Leeds and Southampton? No, Leeds and Southampton at home in the next three. So you have to keep them, John. You have to keep Salah. I don't think now's the time to get rid, but at the same time, don't buy, and probably don't captain either.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think the problem is that many of us already have triple City because Cancelo and Haaland are more or less locked. I think if you could, you'd go Foden and De Bruyne, but a lot of us are in a position where you can't just change Salah to De Bruyne, and I don't think Son's a great option. I don't think any of the other premiums are really good options, even like Sterling or Bruno Fernandes or Kane up top maybe, but that's going to take a couple of transfers and completely rejig squads. I think it's more a case of people are kind of stuck with Salah now if they've got him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will be quite trapped there. So it's almost like, do you just let it go and try and... Because, I mean, money isn't necessarily that big an issue across the rest of teams. There's a lot of budget picks doing the business.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why it's not a huge kind of it's not a huge priority to get rid of Salah if you have him. I mean, look, Salah's still Salah. I mean, his stats, they haven't fallen off a cliff like to an extreme extent. He's still getting chances. He's still got the highest XG amongst midfielders, right? It's just that his kind of numbers haven't been as good as previous seasons. And it's more Liverpool not creating the chances. And look, and then if you look at it as well, Liverpool haven't received any penalties yet either. Which is quite rare. After 11 games, usually they've got maybe 2 or 3 penalties there. So there's that as well. So yeah, as I said, it's just one of those where I think over those 2 games, I still think he's a good option. Not as good as option as he was in previous seasons, and because we've got Haaland there, we don't need him for the captaincy either.
A lot of very frustrated people got rid of Trossard for Foden, myself included.
Oh, yeah.
Trossard scored a wee belter, wiped out our Cancelo clean sheets, and Foden 28 minutes, 1 point. I think a lot of people will be incredibly frustrated at Foden and be going, that was the wrong decision, da da da. But I think we're almost in a better position now because he's had his rotation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, that was the first game he'd been benched in the league, right? And they had a week off. I mean, this was a game where you'd think there's no way he's getting benched, but this typical FPL, he gets benched. But yeah, I mean, I just think with Pep, he always looks at the opposition and picks his team based on opposition. But what we know so far is that Foden is one of his kind of his golden boys. He's one of the players that one of the attackers that are going to play the most minutes. So yeah, it's nothing to worry about in my opinion. Just stick with them. Those next 3 fixtures: Leicester, Fulham, and Brentford. You can't get much better than that. And we know how good City are going forward as well.
I'll display my team just for this one. This talking point. It's about how maybe we should have bench boosted this week. A lot of us. I had Ward, Andreas, and Nico Williams. A combined total of 24 points in the bench. And a lot of people will be sickened by that. Their bench order. Benching Andreas, he's in great form, and he's reminding me of Souček. Was it last season or the season before, where he was everyone's midfield enabler, was always first on the bench. I remember he went in this run and just scoring for fun, and then it became this awkward decision of like, wait there a second, do I actually have to play Souček? It's starting to get there with Andreas. Now, I haven't checked his fixtures, I'll admit that, but I mean, Everton say, yeah, perfect, Everton at home this week. Andreas is off the back of... Okay, just a 10-pointer. I thought he'd done more. He got the goal, the assist, and then he blanked against Villa. And then he got the 10. So I suppose you could look at that as 4 returns in 4 games. And it's getting to that stage, isn't it, where it's like, it's not nice seeing 10 points on a bench.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's definitely a good enough player to kind of play in our starting 11s. He's probably the best 4.5 million midfielder we've had in years, John. But yeah, you're right. The Everton's fixture is good enough to play him. But then they've got City and United. So, I mean, he's probably going to be in our teams for the duration of the season. Looking at how looking at his price, 4.5 million, as you said. Look at the returns he's getting. That's for 4.5 million, you can't ask for much more. So he is the perfect kind of budget player. But I think a lot of people had the decision this week to make. For example, with me, it was Solanke, and I just thought 90 minutes Solanke, he's on penalties. Slightly ahead, but some were kind of forced to play him, and some played him out of choice. So yeah, it was a good. I mean, it definitely wasn't a bad fixture for him.
Yeah. Well, look, there's our game weeks. I ended up on 58 points. Small green arrow. You got 45 points. Big red arrow. Unfortunately, Let's have a look at let's have a talk about your watch list. So, what sort of players are coming into your thinking now for the final few game weeks before we wrap up for the World Cup?
Yeah, I'll start off with the kind of the obvious ones. I think which most people have got or will be getting. It'll be like with the Man City and Arsenal players. So likes of I think a lot of us will already have obviously Haaland and Cancelo. I think obviously they're definitely going to be right up there. And then I think the third City player for me has to be Foden. I think a lot might possibly go De Bruyne, but I just think Foden with 4 million cheaper. And then if you look at those fixtures, Leicester away. Leicester have conceded the most goals this season, and then they've got Fulham and Brentford at home. I mean, fixtures wise, with those games up until the World Cup, you have to have, I think, 3 City players, and those would be my, kind of my 3, Haaland, Cancelo, and Foden. And then with the Arsenal boys, I think, again, you can take your pick. You've got Saka, you've got Martinelli, you've got Jesus. You can go for a triple attack. I mean, Xhaka possibly when kind of is thrown his hat into the ring. He's only 5.1 million, so if you can't afford, if you've kind of low in budget, you can go for him. Ben White in defence. He's playing like a new wing back. He's got 2 assists already. So yeah, I think when you're looking at the best players to own, I think from those teams, City and Arsenal, I think you need to get at least 5 players from those 2 teams combined.
I want people in the comments to do us a favour, throw in like the players that are a little bit rogue. Don't just go saying your Saka or whoever. Say someone on your watch list that you think is a wee bit rogue that you're keeping an eye on. I like the Almirón type shouts, the Xhakas. I see a Wobie in there. Tom knee-jerked him in for Rodrigo, clutching at straws. But just slightly more differential players. I want to see them in the comments. So yeah, I think that the Man City, a lot of us have 3. Arsenal, I'm in a position now where I've just got Martinelli. I think a lot of people might. But I'm very tempted by Saka this week. Very, very tempted by Saka. I've got Zaha there. I've even got Salah. I don't know if I necessarily want to be getting rid of Salah this week, but I feel like this is just a well-beaten drum at this stage where I feel like it's been a season now. We're halfway through last season and maybe all this season where it just seems to be this constant conversation of, but it's Salah, it's going to happen. He's still a great option. This might happen. He's still good, da-da-da. But it's just like, how long can a player not return on FPL before it's like, let's forget the days of old? So, I don't know. Maybe I feel for me that time might be the World Cup break, but
yeah, this
might be my last hurrah with him for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. I mean, I've been one of those, John, that's been kind of saying, wait. I've seen a few comments saying, I've shown him a bit too much faith. But yeah, I think let's give him to the World Cup, see what happens. I think by that time as well, by the time you come back from the World Cup, Liverpool's injury woes should kind of be over as well. Yeah, let's see. But I think if you've got Salah, I think keep him till the World Cup and then kind of reassess.
Oh, I've just thought of a belter move I can do. You ready for this?
Go on then.
I could take a -4, right? And I could bring in Harry Kane and Saka for Tony and Salah. I don't know. Do you hate it? I mean, and then Forest. Like, it's just I bought these guys because of their fixtures. Get rid of 2. No, I won't do it. I won't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a hit, it's a risky move, especially when we've got, it's like it's only for 2 game weeks as well, really, isn't it? It's for 3 game weeks, so yeah. So when you're kind of dead ending, and we're all going to be dead ending into game week 16. So, but when we take hits, it's going to be less likely to pay off because we're not doing it over a long period. So yeah, risky one, but not one for me, I don't think.
Outside the Arsenal and City players, who's next on your horizon on your list?
Yeah, so next one is so these are going from like really obvious to less obvious, right? So Zaha, I think, is definitely got to be there. A lot will have him. A lot will probably be looking to get him in. Again, he's got West Ham in game week 15, which obviously isn't the easiest game, but they do have Southampton and Nottingham Forest in game week 14, game week 16. He is, Palace's talisman. He's on penalties. He predominantly plays as the most furthest forward player, so he's like an OOP, like an out of position player. He's a midfielder in FPL terms, but he's playing pretty much as a forward. So yeah, I think he's a great option, and I think a lot. I've seen a lot of managers on Twitter looking at taking him out this week for Saka, which to be honest is a bit of a decision. I think for me, I think that move might be a bit sideways. I think for this week, okay, yeah, Arsenal have got Forest at home, which is probably the best fixture of the season, but then they've got Chelsea away and Wolves away, which aren't the best, and then Palace have got West Ham and Nottingham Forest. So yeah, the reason I bring that up is that because I think that is going to be a decision for a lot of managers this week, and for me, if that was me, I think I would probably hold on to Zaha.
I have Zaha, and he's been driving me bloody mad. But I think when I do look at the fixtures there with Saka as the obvious switch, I just, it doesn't look as... I just don't see necessarily enough upside. Definitely, I wouldn't be taking a hit for it, which I'm sure some people will. And the extra money, and I don't know, I like Saka. I think I'd like almost a bit more Arsenal exposure. Maybe for me, that could be Jesus. But as you say, like Chelsea away and Wolves away, I wouldn't be surprised if there was one goal, like only one goal in that for Arsenal in each game. Does that make sense? Like 2 goals across 2 games for them, and who's going to get those? I mean, it's any man's game.
Exactly. And then that's the thing as well with Arsenal. Like they've not really got a talisman just now, whereas Zaha is Palace's talisman. And I mean that move does look good for this week, John. I mean it's an upgrade for this week, but then over the next 3, I don't think it is.
Okay, who's next?
So the next one I've got on the list is Scamacca. So I think Scamacca is going to be a good Mitrovic replacement for a lot of managers. Possibly even Solanke as well now that he's injured, but I don't think his injury looks too serious. But okay, West Ham have got Man United this week, but then they've got who have they got in the next 2? They've got Crystal Palace and Leicester at home, right? So Fulham this week have got Everton, and then Gameweek 15 and 16 they've got Man City away and United away. So this is a really good move for me, I think, from Gameweek 15 for Alexander Mitrovic, because then you get Scamacca for Crystal Palace and Leicester at home. His stats have been really impressive, John. West Ham have kind of picked up their kind of their attacking stats. If you look at the first 7 games were absolutely terrible. They had the same amount of goals as Wolves, but they have really picked it up now. And he is now the first choice forward. He started the last 5 games ahead of Antonio. At the start of the season, he was kind of getting irritated a bit, but obviously Moyes, David Moyes likes him now. He's seen that, he's got something about him, and he is the first choice starter. So Scamacca is definitely one I'm looking at in Game Week 15 for a Mitrovic replacement. And I think there is also a small possibility, this is not obviously, it's something that I picked up in the press conferences, but he might be on penalties as well now, because after the game last night, obviously West Ham got a penalty, and in the kind of the post-match press conference, Bowen said that, I think he said it in a sarcastic and joking manner. He said that he's not on penalties anymore, and he's not going to be on penalties after last week's miss. So that's up in the air as well now. And with him being like the first choice forward, you think that he would probably be one of the favourites to take over penalty duties.
FPL Junkie, shout out, put Scamacca in as his differential when I asked him there a little bit ago. I'm just going to jump over to this guy. I don't know if he's on your list, and if he's not, tell me why he's not. A lot of shouts for DCL. Stephen Barry in there, Colin Bugler, Super Duper, Tom, lots of you in there. He's in there. Let's talk about him now, just because he's been called for so much. Yeah. FPL Big Willie, what a name. Joe O'Reilly, lots of people.
Yeah. So the reason I've got DCL, John, is that we know exactly what he's capable of. He was injured for a lot of last season, but the season before he got 16 goals and 6 assists, and before that he got 13 goals. So he's a proven Premier League player, John. He's going to be on penalties as well, I take it. He's building up his fitness. So he started the last 2 games. He's finally got his goal this season. Everton's fixtures are good as they come. They've got Fulham away, Leicester at home, and then Bournemouth, right? So those next 3 games, those 3 teams are in the bottom 5 for goals conceded and expected goals conceded. So fixtures wise, you can't beat it. He seems to be back now, so he's definitely a great option, and he's only 0.2% owned at the time of writing. So at the time of speaking, sorry. I had my kind of writing head on there, but because I was writing about him the other day. So yeah, so he's definitely I think even by the deadline, if he's getting transferred in, he's not going to be over 1% owned. So a great differential and a great option as well.
Shout out FPL Big Willie, who says he named his YouTube channel after me. That made me laugh. You don't know me, unfortunately. I wish. And just I want to throw this out here. This isn't like a paid plug or anything, but there's a big Irish meetup happening on the 12th of November. I'm going to it up in Galway. So if there's anyone in Ireland who is driving distance to Galway, there'll be a load of FPL managers. It's a stacked day of games. 12th of November. Now, let me just tell you the schedule. Man City, Brentford, then Liverpool, Southampton, or Spurs and Leeds. So there's a million 3 o'clock games. Newcastle, Chelsea at 5:30, and then Wolves, Arsenal at 7:45. It's a full day of football. Massive beer garden booked out with a massive screen in Galway, which is an incredible city for a few pints. So I would implore anyone to make an effort if they fancy a wee trip over to Ireland. Let's go. I've booked my hotel, can't wait. And if you're into that, just message me and I'll tell you where to go, or text FPL ERA, EIRE, to those of you that don't know what that means. So, who's next? Calvert-Lewin is really interesting. He looked great. I've just asked you who's next, then went on to talk about your previous pick, but he's really, really, he looked amazing, and we do know what he can do. It's just hard, I think, again, it still feels hard picking an Everton guy, but I think it's too soon for me, but definitely one to keep an eye on. He'll be making a push for the World Cup last minute. Who's our next one?
I think just in the same team, Jordan Pickford. This is a bit of a kind of low-key one, but again, he's a lot of guys picked him on the wild card last week. I think, similar great fixtures, and he's a good. I think from Everton, I think they're the only two players I'd be interested in. DCL from the attack and Pickford from the defence. I'll move on to the next one, John. So we've only got two more. So we've got, I think for me, Marcus Rashford. Again, he's looking. In the last two games, he's been so unlucky not to get any returns. Honestly, he could have had some big hauls in the last two. He's playing up front. I can't see Ronaldo getting back in anytime soon. Their fixtures in the next three are West Ham at home, Aston Villa and Everton. United have been a different kind of. I think they've been a lot different this season than the previous season. A lot better going forward and at the back. So I think Rashford would be only 6.6 million. Again, he's one that would probably be a bit of a differential, and a bit of a punt. But I like him. I think he's been playing well.
I'm looking at Rashford there. I remember before we started the season, everyone thought he was going to be the value pick of the year. Do you remember that? Yeah.
I mean, he seems to be having his injury problems, his niggles, which he's had over the last few years. But for now, he looks fit, and he looks like he's playing well.
It's amazing to me that based off the season he's had. Now I know he's had 2 double-digit hauls, but he's kind of blanked for 5 weeks in a row. And while there's some incredibly hard fixtures there, City, Newcastle, Tottenham, and Chelsea in that 5. There's a mad run of games coming here for United, and I think after the World Cup, a lot of us will be looking at them. And then even in February, there's a lovely run too. I mean, they've kind of got all their crap out of the way in many respects. It still just surprised me that he's actually went up in price, but maybe I'm being an idiot. Who's your next pick? I don't know how many of these you have, so I'm going to keep asking you.
Yeah, no, this is the final one, John. So we've got Miguel Almirón. So he's. Yeah, I mean he's getting hard to ignore now. He's only 5.4 million. He's got 6 goals. He's now the second highest scoring midfielder in the game. And Newcastle, we know they're a much improved team, John. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they snuck a top 4 finish. I think they'll finish top 5, top 6 at least. We saw what they done. They won against Spurs at Spurs' ground, which isn't an easy place to go. So attacking wise, they're looking great. I mean, he's obviously. I think his previous best, season was 4 goals and 2 assists. He's already got 6 goals after 10 games. Again, he's playing in the front 3. I can't really see much to argue about. He's only 5.4 million. They've got Aston Villa, Southampton in the next 2, but then they've got Chelsea at home in Gameweek 16. But I can see Newcastle scoring all 3 of those games. Chelsea is, of course, a tough fixture, but again, 5.4 million, a great 5th midfielder.
I'm just going to have a look here over at the website. And I tweeted this a couple of days ago. I'll click into it there. I don't know if people can see it. This is at the deadline day stream in London. This is me in disbelief looking at Fergie.
I remember I watched that with you.
As he had Almirón in his team. And now I'm actually devastated because I gave him a bit of praise for this. I said, like, one man knew all along. I tweeted this the other day. Yet Fergie actually removed him in like game week 3 or 4. So he doesn't have him now. But like he knew this was Almirón's season. He knew it. So yeah, there he is.
I know. I remember that.
Disbelief.
Big shout out to Fergie for calling it. I don't know what his reasoning was behind it, but I'm yet to ask him. But hats off.
So look, in terms of what I'm thinking for this week, I have 1 million in the bank. I don't know. I think I've a decent lineup here. Going into next week. Let me have a look here. What I'd probably do. I probably wouldn't play Castagna against Man City. I'd pop Guehi in. I've already done this in FPL. I haven't done it on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool though. Andreas again against Everton's a hard one to bench, but I think he'd probably be benched this week. So I'd be running what people can see on the screen there: Pope, Trippier, Guehi, Cancelo, Salah, Foden, Zaha, Martinelli, Haaland, Mitrovic and Tony. And correct me if I'm wrong, Abdul, but I look at this kind of as a just over 70 predicted points, which is a belter week, Haaland captain. The way I look at this is, yes, I have 1 million in the bank. Yes, there's these buzzwords and names everywhere, but I don't think I'm in that bad shape. With Andreas first sub, I feel like knowledge is power, to quote, is it Game of Thrones? I feel like just running an extra week, having 2 free transfers, get into game week 15. I think I'm in a good enough position that I don't need to. And while there might be marginal gains in making a transfer, I almost feel like just hold off and wait till next week. And then you've got 2 and you'll have more information. And obviously a lot can happen midweek. We're streaming this on a Tuesday. A lot can happen. So maybe someone gets injured in the Champions League. Maybe someone plays a full 90 and I worry about rotation. Maybe anything happens. But I think I'm leaning towards rolling at the minute.
Yeah,
or
I think that,
downgrading Salah, but I think I'd rather just wait a week.
Oh no! I think in that you got, as I said, Don, you got a great team there. It's a definite role for me. If that was my team, I'd be saving 100%. And going in Gameweek 15 with 2 free transfers, yeah, so really good team. And even if you get an injury there, John, you've got Andreas, that can come in, Everton at home.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And as I say, up at the top, 93% game week rating, 70 predicted points. Looking ahead a week, I've got the Martinelli against Chelsea fixture, Mitrovic against Man City, along with Andreas. Salah has Spurs. So I think I'd rather get coming up to this week, have the 2 free transfers in the bank, have 1 million in the bank, Salah to someone, and then massively upgrade elsewhere or change something about. Maybe the Guehi or someone like that could go up. I don't know. I think, as I say, knowledge is power, to be quite dramatic about it. If we have a look at your team loaded in, now I don't know if you want to call out who you'd be starting and what way you'd be playing this. I imagine Trent Alexander-Arnold comes in for Guehi.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, so basically,
he was on the bench here.
It'll be easy. It'll be easier to just tell you who my bench will be. So I'll have Guehi on the bench, Solanke on the bench, and Dunk, and then obviously I'll be playing a 3-5-2. So I'll be playing Andreas this week because of Solanke's injury. I think I might have played him anyway because Bournemouth have got Spurs at home. But Solanke is probably going to be out this week, so it makes it an easy decision for me. But again, I really like my team this week, John. All my players are at home, apart from the 3 City players who've got Leicester away, which is probably the best fixture of the game week anyway. So I'm 100% saving this week. Even if I guess if I pick up an injury to win my starting 11, I've got Guehi there with Southampton at home. So, a lot would need to happen for me to make a transfer this week.
Yeah, no, as I say, looking at your team, it looks really solid. Nice to see you playing Andreas too, repaying that 10 double-digit score. 71.5 predicted points. I think you'd take that now, would you?
Yeah, I think after last week, I would definitely take that.
Trent there as well. It was a bit strange, coming off the bench last week. Is that a fitness thing, a form thing?
I think that was just. I mean, I did think there was a chance he'd get benched for that game, but I took the risk and I thought he might just get benched for Ajax in midweek because, he did just come back from injury, and then they've got Forest, and then they've got, Ajax midweek, and then they've got, Leeds at the weekend. So I did think one of those 3 games he was going to get rested. I banked on it being the Champions League game, but, fortunately for me, it wasn't. So, yeah, I think he's got the rest out of the way. I think he starts the next 2 games for sure.
Abdul, according to FPL Big Willie, there's a serious problem here because there's 300 watching and only 43 likes.
Oh, joking me, man. That's terrible.
I know, that's kind of like, that's not great for the self-confidence.
I've already liked it myself as well, so no excuse for anybody else.
So even less. I've probably liked it off like 2 or 3 YouTubes as well. Jeez. I tell you what, my insecurities are stacking up here. Please do us a favour, like the video and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Another point there, just Ward will humble Haaland, says FPL Big Willie, who's got more shoutouts than anyone in the history of any of these streams. But I think it's just that we remember the name every time. It's an interesting one because a lot of people have played Ward now, and he's keeping clean sheets for fun. But this isn't the week where you want to play him at all. If he actually humbles Haaland, I'll put it this way. If Man City don't score against Leicester and Ward keeps a clean sheet with any sort of bonus save points, I'll get a Ward jersey and I'll wear it in the next stream, because like that would just be like sheer FPL heroics, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would take that because I mean, Haaland captain isn't gonna, his returns aren't gonna kind of, shoot you right up the ranks because he's gonna be, probably 150, 160% ownership again. So I would take a Ward clean sheet and then, for Salah to haul instead.
Oh baby. It's in the name. Well, look, Abdul, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you again next week. Best of luck this weekend. Thanks for the watch list. And everyone will be back tomorrow with the FPL double up. On Thursday, we have the Green Arrow, and Bakar will be on later in the week, either Thursday or Friday.